Guys, welcome to an episode of Changing Gears that has been a long time coming, I think. We haven't done one of these in quite some time now, I suppose, guys. My name is Todd. I'm here with Fruit and Toby. And we've been talking about it in the pre-show. If you ever do want to check what we're talking about, make sure you join live. Toby, what's going on? Everything's blue.
It wasn't that funny when I thought about it.
Is this the coronavirus feeling that we all have?
Listen, bro, like this pillow happens to be blue, my backdrop happens to be blue, and my t-shirt that I've chosen today happens to be blue.
You see,
these things happen. You see,
the thing with your backdrop,
blue can occur.
The thing with your backdrop, I've never understood why it's blue.
I prefer so it's a green screen, right? And I'd rather have something a little bit different than the typical green screen, you know? The green
so it works in the same sense.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oh, I see. So why haven't you got it on?
The green screen?
Yeah, you just blend in.
You would have the green screen then, wouldn't you?
How do I have to do it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you see that you see, I'm clearly not Matt. I'm an idiot. But yes, okay, there's plenty to discuss, as said. Plenty to go through. Let's first and foremost talk on the EU Online Major that we obviously all were commentating over the other weekend. Cracking time. I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. Really, really good gears across the board. Some really good competition from the lower side of things as well. Of course, we did expect the Pro League teams to be up at the top, but some really good competition, which we will probably speak on a little bit further down the line as well in terms of the amateur teams that came through. But ultimately, let's talk about it. The winners elevate through. I mean, they were flawless all weekend, weren't they? They looked so good.
I mean, they came to win, and when they did, right, they looked really, really good. And I don't think they had many close matches. I mean, the match against Rated R obviously was the one series in the winners bracket kind of route. Jesus, that looked really good. But other than that, they walked it. They were very, very convincing, and even in the grand final, they didn't look like they were going to lose.
Yeah. In the way that they played in the grand final as well, it did catch me off guard. I was thinking that Rated R were going to come back into it. Do you think, Toby, the Rated R would have been disappointed with their performance? Because for me, I was disappointed in their performance. I thought they would be a bit more of a challenge at least.
The thing is, they played extremely well up until the elevate point of the tournament, right? They were doing really, really well, and so I can't really say they'd be disappointed in that sense. Of course, they would have gone into the tournament thinking, hey, let's be elevate. Let's show that this, Pro League season was actual, facts as to who is the best team in Europe and kind of like cement themselves there. And also, of course, that Gridiron tournament, they lost in the final to elevate too. But I think what's most disappointing about that is that they didn't really put up as much of a fight in the grand final. It was just a straight 3-0 rather than, a 2-1 as we saw in the winners bracket final. So I think, yeah, they'll be kicking themselves for that. But again, they performed very, very well in the tournament, so that's something definitely to rest on if you're Rated R.
Yeah, it sort of takes us back to the question, and I feel like the teams don't like us to discuss it about being the best in Europe, because it's a little bit easier now because we haven't got international competition to sort of say this is sort of where you want to be at. If you're in Europe, you want to be the best in Europe. But I've always sort of not loved the chat about it because, these guys want to be the best in the world, not just the best in Europe. And that's sort of why I don't like going down this route. But right now, I think it's fair to go down there because that's the only thing that can be at this moment in time. Where do you sort of put that then? I think it's hard to distinguish. It's good to have the competition nonetheless. Are we still solidifying Elevate up there? Because the season is across obviously 6 different weeks. You've got to consistently be good. But this is when the big money was on the line. Elevate performed. And I'll just open this up to you both. Are you thinking that they are now solidified as the number one team? Or do you think Rated R still are there because they won obviously the full season?
I would say that Elevate are definitely the number one team right now. I think earlier on in the season, they were not. And I think there was a good maybe 3-4 week span where I would have 100% given it to Rated R coming out of Mexico and then into the first 3 weeks of the spring quarter. But the last 3 weeks, Elevate looked very, very strong. They, although Rated R did take that quarter on rounds, Elevate did win that second series. They did win 2-1. They beat them in the Gridiron tournament, and then they beat them not just once, but twice at the major. 4 times in a row now, they've beat them in a best-of-3 series. I don't think I could give it to anyone else apart from Elevate at this point. I think they've proven it for sure.
Same sentiments, Toby?
Yeah, exactly the same. After the major, or the previous major, rather, Rated R's performance then was really just a surprise for many people over Elevate. Also, yeah, I mean, Elevate have now finally proven that they are better than Rated R, I believe. The Pro League was a huge shock for Europe. Likewise, we never thought we'd see the day that Elevate wouldn't come first in the Pro League, and I think that's the most exciting part, right, of the past quarter, to really notice about EU, but. I think it's safe to say, yes, Elevate are the better team at this point in time. They looked a lot more, I'd say, varied in their gameplay. I feel like Rated R are almost a one-trick pony when they go up against Elevate, and that if they don't get those kills off the initial, they don't start really slaying heavily the other team, they start to be shown up a little bit in terms of, weak areas and whatnot. And Elevate, I think, are just a much more all-encompassing, well-rounded team in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Go on, for.
I was just going to say as well, I think we've got to remember as well the points that the teams get from the major. It does mean that Elevate did win the Pro League. It was just the seeding that Rated R got first, right?
That's true. No.
Major. So
yeah, sure.
I think now they're 2 seasons in a row as that number 1 team, right? They lost the first one to Regal after their poor performance in San Diego, but other than that, yeah, they've won 2 quarters in a row now officially. And they won the major. I think that pretty much sums it up, right? They're dominant right now.
Yeah, dominance from them, and honestly, I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen next season. Of course, obviously, we're going to have a new team in there completely, or base splitting, meaning we are going to have a brand new team in, which is it's a shame. I think Obey. It was always a case of so near but so far. At times you've seen them have the ability to potentially do something, and then it just would never materialize. Like they had the power to do that. They had the slaying power. A couple of the guys on that team looked really, really good on occasion, but I don't know. I mean, it was always the case that they were gonna. I mean, even in the major, they didn't look too bad. Like when they choked that game against Rated R, though, when they were 4-0 up, I think that was sort of the nail in the coffin, wasn't it? But we're not going to see OB. We're going to see a new team. We'll talk on the qualifier, the last thing round, because it's the next thing we're going to see. So recency. But while we're here, let's talk about roster changes, because obviously we're hearing a lot that is going on. Can we fill people in? Is it just rumors? Are we allowed to speak on this? I don't know. Are we under NDA?
I honestly, I don't think I'm under NDA, because I've been told a lot of rosters on a live stream, right, in Twitch chat. I was like, oh, what's going on with rosters then? What have you heard from your point of view? And I've been told a lot of things, which are, I think, confusing, some of them, but also very exciting, because you've had kind of just like a shake-up of loads of good players, and they've been splashed together to see what comes out of it, and it's going to make for a very interesting qualifier, I think. On terms of the topic of Obey, I do agree with that, Chris. I think they had so much potential. When J-Rage and Ashens joined the roster, I was like, this is it. Breaker, my man, is going to have an amazing comeback to past glories now. And we always talk about Breaker and others in terms of their past glories with Gears 3 and how good they were back in the day. And he's been in particular trying to claw his way back to that. But I don't know, like there's been so many inconsistent performances from rosters of his that the caster inside me wants to like put like the friendship aside and think, what's going wrong? This has happened for so long. We've always just thought, it's okay, this will fix in future. It's all right, don't worry, just continue on. I've said to him in private myself that, hey, don't worry about that loss that you just had. Focus on the next time. These issues. You're mindful of what's going on in the roster. Focus on those weaknesses, and and move on and stay positive. But it's never really materialized. And I guess that's the story for Obey now, with such roster changes in the form of Ashens and J-Rage. They're amazing individually. Let's not get it twisted. They were performing their roles. The whole team as a unit just wasn't performing. And so I'm not shocked with the roster changes at all. In terms of what Breaker and Saki have moved on to, it has been a complete shake-up, I can tell everyone. Breaker and Saki, they're currently playing with Bruiser, Slaps, and Demonic. Caleb again, okay? So there's not too much of a shock there that Breaker is back with Demonic, of course, long-time teammate. And of course a Welsh wizard, like many, might I point out. It's nice to see Demonic back in the scene and playing.
Does he like blue as well, does he?
Yeah, maybe. But I think wrong Caleb. In fact, Political is back. I've just been updated. Rowdy's just told me in chat. So Caleb not playing with them anymore. Sad again, Welsh wizard. But political. I mean, I haven't heard much about political. I've seen him scrim and play with a lot of good teammates, but I'm surprised that Demonic, since being told by a certain player, he's already gone. So I guess things are still changing drastically on that front. So, what you hear now might be different in a day or two to come.
Any surprises with these changes for? I mean, obviously the Obey one is the one that has sort of messed things up in terms of, they can't keep their spot because they haven't retained enough of the roster. That was the ruling, whether you agree with it or not. That's how it works. So obviously somebody new is coming in. Any thoughts on the changes coming through?
The surprising one for me is the kind of direction that Ashen's headed. From what I heard, and I'm probably going to correct it. This is 2-week-old information, but I heard he and Skills were off to Regal.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
In place of Physics and Jack, and to me, like, they were a very, very good, couple of players on that Regal roster. And Regal, out of the 3 seasons that we've seen them play so far, have been the best this quarter. Sorry, the 3 quarters. Have been the best this quarter. They were right at the heels of the likes of Elevate and Rated R, and they had many a close game, and it feels very weird. Like I think Ashens is a fantastic player, and I think he will be a good addition to that roster for sure. I don't really agree with the skills pick personally. Like, I think he's a great player, but I think both Jack and Physics bring more to that roster. So that's a very, very interesting change for me, and I am excited to see how they play, to be honest with you. Because it's not a roster we've seen before, and it's a long way from where I would thought it would go as well. If someone was going to say Regal were going to make 2 changes,
yeah, I think that's fair. I was surprised to see that as well. Obviously, these are all just sort of rumors, so to speak. In terms of like, I mean, some of them are obviously definitely happening because we know that some players have been removed off rosters and anything. But until it's like officially confirmed and whatnot, let's just err on the side of caution to a degree. But at the same time, it did surprise me because I thought, apart from the very first quarter where everyone was sort of mixing up, this is the most competitive we've seen Regal for quite some time, and it's a disappointment for me because I actually, like, we understood the change why Jack came in. Rita wasn't performing. It was come down to the point where they needed a leader. Jack was clearly that leader that they needed. Like, I don't know. Like, obviously, we don't play in the team. We're not playing every single day. We don't know what's going on in scrims, etc., etc. There might be, bad things. Who knows? They might not get along. But it's just one of these things that it did catch me off guard. I would have thought they would have give it another stab with this one, of course. But to see that change is disappointing me a little bit. But I do believe that Ashen's at least coming in there is going to be a really good pick, and hopefully we have another really competitive quarter because that last quarter was really, really good, obviously between Radar and Elevate. I'm curious to see which way that fight goes as well, but at the same time, it'd be nice to have Regal in the mix with whoever the hell we're going to get. I mean, that's... I know I said we were going to talk about it later, but let's sort of get a prediction on this one. Who are we thinking is going to take that spot? Because for me, it's like there's a lot of unknowns in there as well. There was obviously there was some good teams coming through on the major. 3 times Rowdy, he's in the chat. Have they got an official team name yet? Who knows? But teams like that. Well, yes, okay, they had to make changes, didn't they? Isn't it? Ricardo had to be dropped.
They had to get rid of, and also I think they brought in Reaction. I think Reaction is playing with Vision. So
see, this is the thing. You've got all the fingers in the pies here, Drew. I haven't got a clue what's going on.
It's a string of information here and one here, and like, it's piecing them together. It's a bit of a jigsaw, and I've just got the outside at the moment. But honestly,
start with the edges.
If that's a roster, if that's a roster, I think that's a very good one, to be honest with you. They look great in the major, right? And to then make a solid roster change like that, knowing they had to, get rid of someone because who's underage, and then bring in a
which is player. Which is a shame because he was really good in the major. From what I remember, was Ricardo. He was very, very good. Yeah, so he's the one to keep an eye out on the future, of course. But I just seen that Rowdy saying TJ is in, apparently as well. Yeah, TJ is in.
That's what I heard as well.
His house?
TJ was in that roster. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if Jack is in that team. The team that I've got, the roster in full, if this helps anyone, is TJ, Vision, Astrals, Nestiques, and Warrior Guns. So there's no Jack there. So I was questioning myself, where is Jack gone after the Regal change? And I haven't got him on my list of new teams, shall we say.
Yeah. So I
And
thought
so
he was
I'm
in that
confused.
position where you've just called TJ. So that would make sense, I guess, if they've filled that spot with someone else.
Yeah.
Would I have gone Jack over TJ? I don't know. That's a good
That's
question.
the thing.
Depends what TJ you're going to get.
This is what I'm reading from the
Yeah.
roster changes, right? Because I was confused that Jack Reaction is out for skills as well. Like, it's a very, unproven player versus a very proven player historically, right? And you question immediately, why is Jack gone and skills in? I think, judging from Ashens as well coming in for physics, I believe Regal have gone for a more, young, slay-heavy squad and kind of like the rated R thoughts, where you get as many amazing shotgunners in form, actively playing, etc., highly motivated players, and you try and throw them all into one team and see what comes out of it. I think that's the idea behind it. We saw from Fractures how good he was with a shotgun, right? How incredible he is, up there with the best in Europe. I think that's kind of what they're trying to follow on, right? With Zorkos as well, has been a very aggressive player all this whole period. I'm sure they have good trust in his abilities individually to continue in that role. And that goes to show with the new team, TJ instead of Reaction. I think many players, judging from how amazing TJ has been, that front spawn and that aggressive shotgunner with power weapons and stuff, I think many people would choose TJ over Jack Reaction. And so I guess that's kind of the storyline of all these new teams, is just a collection of slayers and top performing current players being thrown into different rosters and everyone trying to see what they can do.
I'd sort of just like throw something at the wall and see if it sticks, isn't it, at the moment? Because how long have you got to practice? Then when it gets to the point, obviously you have to stick with your roster, go through that 6 weeks, and it has to work. That's the thing. Like, obviously you've been given a really big opportunity, but you need to make sure it's going to work. Obviously the qualifiers are going to be going on most of Sunday, but we will be broadcasting on Monday. As said last night, we will be broadcasting the losers finals and the grand finals. Now, don't know if this is known information, but the losers finals best out of 3. It's a best out of 5, same format as the spring major, where it's the team coming out of the winners bracket do actually have that one map lead. So if you didn't know that, there you go. I'm just dropping bombs on rules. Look at all the intel that I'm dropping. Something else to discuss. Let's talk about NA Major. Caught little bits of it. Of course, time zones don't help, but we caught up where we could through. I know you were up late at night because you fucking love Gears of War, mate. And you heard
it first.
Yeah, so I heard anyway. But that final, I did catch up with that. What a game. That's the final I wish we had, and I thought we definitely could have had. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, which is a disappointment. However, an absolute cracker, of course, Quarantine taking that one. Nice to see the team sort of come back to that former glory to a certain degree anyway.
You? Not Quarantine.
Are you, not Quarantine.
Yeah.
Head.
Quarantine, we're in it.
Quarantine, we're in the final. Yeah.
Winners bracket, right? So I think that's what you're thinking of. But yeah, you totally. You. I mean, what a comeback story from them. It's one part amazing and one part really frustrating. Because I think, and you know what, I'll say it. I was hoping they wouldn't win this event after the stunts they pulled, taking Kenny and Powers from Quarantine. I think that was a bit of a snaky move from all parties, to be honest with you. I'm going to be very, very careful how I word this. I
tell us how you really feel.
And I honestly wish Quarantine would have won that event, because I think that would have been a big, F you, steal our players, we'll still win. And it would have also stopped a lot of what's now in motion with the roster mania that's going on the NA side of things. Quarantine, second place team, disbanded. Rise, second place team, disbanded. Like, it's ridiculous. Third place team, sorry. But it's meant that now there's a second kind of God Squad forming. So it's been pretty interesting. The NA Major was amazing, but the drama that's following it is also really, really cool to see. And we've got Fran and Icy now in a team with, Inzem and Avexis. They've also gone for that kind of team of a couple of old gods and a couple of new, really, really kind of good, skilled, fast young players. And that is also a very scary roster now. And for Europe as a region, that's not what you want to see happening on the other side of the pond. You want a good, large amount of teams, but not these super, super teams that you're seeing. And Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting for next quarter as well on NA side. Those
Yeah.
changes.
I mean, who knows when they're ever going to play each other again at this point, of course, but it might be next year by now. But Toby, what are we thinking? Did you manage to catch much of it?
Yeah, I watched it all pretty much. It was a really good event.
You're on that gamer sleep schedule, right?
Oh yeah, gamer sleep schedule. Understatement. Yeah, I mean the thing with franchise rushies I see, Big Matt Sean, right? He just said in chat that Fran believes they would have changed regardless, even if they won with Solas and Morty. Originally, I thought the Morty pickup was a bit confusing because he was on like lower down on the list for a lot of people in terms of predictions who they'd pick up.
Yep.
But even now, right? Even now, they've joined Rise, Rushies, Icy, and Franchise. Of Xyz, I can kind of see. You know, he's been on the radar for a long time as this really unique star player with crazy movement and whatnot. But Inzem again is perhaps someone who's lower down on that list, right? People like to talk about Noe, for example, as an up and coming player, as being an incredible fast mover who people are rating highly, who's come all the way since Gears 4 as an incredible player. You have Hive players as well. You have Latin American players, many would argue, as well, perhaps on the radar for some of these North American teams. Inzem, I guess he wasn't really high on that list, and so I
think he was high on a lot of people's lists, to be honest with you. Like I totally get you. I wouldn't put him at the top of my list either, Toby. But a lot of people in NA and Latin America were raving about him coming into Mexico, and he did have a decent performance there. So I think that's why he ended up on that Rise squad, right? And now is on this massive squad. And I see Agonai saying Inzem is their counter to Powers. I don't think he's on the same level, to be quite honest with you.
He's not Powers, no, but yeah.
But he is a young player. He's younger than Powers, I believe, by a year. And I also think that alongside of Vexies, those two players can do a lot of damage. So I can see why you'd keep him, given that they've got, that history of playing in Rise together. But then that leaves Solas out, right? And he had the best event out of all of them. So
that's the thing, right? There's just so many options, right? I guess in Gears 5, just because it's so balanced, much more balanced rather than Gears 4. It's not as top heavy. A lot more unpredictable results come their way. Even in Europe, we've seen, Elevate on this God Squad team that they've always been. It's the whole of Gears 5 has been so competitive. And so I guess it kind of just goes to show, like, roster changes like this, who people wouldn't have predicted, long-term or short-term, are coming through and quite regularly and throughout every region. So it's very interesting to see. And I guess it's not the end, right? There's roster mania still going on for North America. Europe evidently is still going on. We thought we had our intel, but clearly not. It wasn't that accurate as soon as we turn on the cameras and whatnot. But it's interesting. It's exciting. Like I said about Europe earlier, a lot of the team changes are confusing, but they are exhilarating to really think about, hey, who's going to come out on top and what we're going to see next quarter.
Yeah, and the other thing is as well, like on the NA side of things, just to kind of mention something else to do with the NA major, AGT, man, what a performance they had with Krabbies and Gary and that lot.
Yeah,
they were phenomenal. And minus that, the disconnect issue that they were having on the first game on stream, they looked amazing. And the only team they lost to was UIU in the end, who won the whole tournament. And that's another team that's been shaken up because Krabbies from that team has been taken off that roster as well and has gone Fire and Ice Way with Sleefer, I believe.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, though. You just have
a good event, boys.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
Yeah. It happens all the time, and in not necessarily in Gears, but you've seen it in past. Like a random team just comes up through, and then you see a player that you didn't realize was as good, performing at the highest level at the right time, and then all of a sudden they're on a big roster.
Chris, is this happening in COD? Have you noticed with everything moving online? Have people come
out?
I'm
not a CODcaster anymore, mate.
I know, mate. You follow it though. You follow the scene much more.
There's a little bit here and there, as far as I'm aware. Because I mean, the problem is that obviously it's online as well, so that's something to do with it. Like teams are making decisions based on it being online.
Yeah, that's the thought.
Well, because the whole thing is online now. Of course, with Gears, it is as well. But to a point, they're looking towards the future, whereas COD is settled out saying the rest of the season is going to be online. So, that's a case of having to sort of figure out the best way around that, which is sort of going to lead me into my next question a little bit. obviously we haven't necessarily heard anything concrete on Gridiron yet, on what's going on with it, how it's going to be included. Fru's like looking at his NDA next to him. Obviously, like we'll not touch on it too much in terms of like, do we expect it to come in and whatnot. I'm under the impression that, you know, I'm very much like expecting it to be there in some capacity at least. So we'll work with that. Do you think any of these teams have sort of gone at their changes in terms of Gridiron coming in, or do you think it's just plainly Gears of War? We talk Gears of War, then we go from there, or do you think anyone's looking at it and sort of saying, well, okay, Gridiron, could it be coming in? Probably coming in at some point. You have to sort of accommodate towards that, surely.
Yeah, and I think there's a Rowdy saying 2 weeks for yes. To be honest, I actually don't know. So I literally don't know. I couldn't wink if I wanted to.
Can't wink?
Honestly, well, I mean, I can wink, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to say. No. Yeah, fuck's sake, I don't even know where I was at. Gridiron changes. That's the one. Yeah, I think you have to, and I think, you know, Gridiron specifically. You're looking at those younger high skill players, right? To be kind of bolstering rosters here and there, because if it does come in, that 1v1 potential to have someone who's so good in that kind of position on Gridiron, which can make such a big difference, it's just fantastic, isn't it? I mean, it's exactly what you need, and I think players like Crimson they're gonna be huge in Gridiron because he just doesn't die, right? And single life is so much. About keeping your life and making sure you're always, you know, keeping that number advantage, having more and more players who are individually skilled but also have, you know, the brain as well to realize not to fly at things or to fly at things at the right time. That's what teams should be looking at right now, because they're useful on escalation and on Gridiron as well. You don't want someone who's just going to kind of hammerhead at the other team and die every round. You need someone with a bit of smarts about them too. So I think players are you know, they're adaptable to both, but I think there's definitely a certain category of player that I'd be looking at least if I was building a team right now.
Toby, if you were to build your team, which you already have, do you play on PC, by the way?
Yeah, I do actually. Why'd you ask, mate?
Obviously, if you were assembling a team, you'd be looking at Gridiron Pro. Surely you'd be looking at these guys who were the dog's bollocks at execution, the guys that knew how to play their lives, etc., etc. It surely has to be taken in consideration.
Yeah, immediately when you asked that question, I was thinking Jack Reaction. Who else would you want? You know, on a roster mania, just throw Jack Reaction in there. Just let him in-game lead and you know, make strats up for these new maps and this new mode and whatnot, because it's still execution in a lot of sense. But then, despite all Fru's points, then I think about, hey, would you rather build up your team around what constitutes a very good Gears 5 team? You know, Gridiron isn't something drastically new. It's not something anyone's mastered just yet. So you can't really just look and point and click on whoever you think is the best player in Gridiron right now, because you've not really seen that much of it. Every pro team, right, has been scrimming escalation. Every European team's likely been scrimming escalation. We've not had much Gridiron time, so the true stars haven't reared their heads just yet. So if I was, you know, building a roster, I would still bank it off who is currently the best in top level competition, who's performed the best in majors and scrims and whatnot, before really banking on who's going to be the best Gridiron player. But yes, 1v1 situations, having numbers advantage, all that stuff does get elevated, pardon the pun, in Gridiron.
You didn't even need to say pardon the pun, really. It's just
No.
You made me laugh. I mean, it would make sense to a point to stick towards escalation. Of course, nothing's confirmed as of yet. I mean, I want to see it in some capacity personally, because I mean, I remember saying to you through straight after we did that Gridiron tournament on that Wednesday, that was my favorite Gears cast. Like the whole thing, it was just fucking crazy. I mean, it was just consistent. It was consistently mental, and it was nice to also see some sort of theory to it as well. You know, look, I'm trying to put a bit of light on my face here and open it up on the wrong screen. There we go. It was nice to see some sort of consistency in terms of like how it was played out, but then on occasion there was some teams playing it differently, so it's just nice to see something different in there as well. I think it's very much being needed, and hopefully we do see it come in. I think we will. I don't think they would have put this much stock behind it without introducing it, but it's a case of when, isn't it? You know, the qualifiers are escalation, which I was thinking, well, if they're escalation, is the season going to be escalation? I don't know. Yeah, go on.
I would
You're
put
not
money
reading into
on...
that much?
No. What I was gonna say, I'd put money on it just being escalation till the end of the season. And if they,
Think it's too
they go
soon.
for season 2, then I think that's when the introduction will come through. I don't think now it makes much sense doing it. We've done escalation all 3 quarters, right? All year essentially. And this is the last quarter out of the 4. As much as I love Gridiron, I wouldn't want to see it come in now. I'd want it to be a fresh season, I think. And then from there we kind of start again, and we have either both or one.
Yeah.
I think it also gives the coalition time to get the game mode in a perfect place. Make any tweaks that they need to make any support changes that they need to make, right? Like there's a lot of things that could be worked upon to make Gridiron even better, in my opinion, and I think this gives them time to get that done and get the game in the shape that they want it to be in as well, right? It's no secret to anyone that TC for a while now have basically been trying to turn that ship around to kind of a community focused game, and I think they're getting there for sure. But I also think there's a bit of work to be done, and that time will give them time to sort that out. Is kind of how I read into it, right? Without kind of reading too much into it as well. So I really do think Gridiron will come season 2 if it does come in. If there is a season 2 as well. I mean, that's never been announced, right? So
yeah.
Who knows?
Everyone on the channel will be like, "Oh, Intel." No, honestly, we know fuck all. To be honest with you.
I hold out.
Yeah, look at him. He's like, "Oh shit."
Drink of water.
So let's get into the final topic because I don't think we went over it properly. So the qualifier obviously on Monday, Sunday and Monday. Who are we expecting to make it? I know it's sort of difficult. It is difficult because it's rosters we haven't seen. We haven't unless you're sitting there spectating all that scrims, we haven't really got much of a clue. But, I mean, obviously 3 times Rowdy in there had a very, very good time of things. I'm just having a look. Yeah, because all the rosters are actually on the Gears.gg website.
Yeah.
So 3 times Rowdy is Vision, Mystiques, Warrior Guns, Astrals, and TJ.
There you go. Yeah.
Academy Reunited, Bruisem, Slaps, Political, Breaker, and Saki. Team called Gridiron, they were in the there he is. So you've got Pounds, Brutal, Jam. Oh no, sorry, Pounds is the manager. Brutal, Jam, Sponge, Sanzi, and none other than Death Dancer in there as well. How's he going to be in? He's got a team named after him as well. Just everywhere. You got Hype in there, who's Crisis, Marco, Agromo, Movements, and Egg Stores. Cracking gamer tags in there. A Bolax, this is on Les Pepites.
Le Papites.
Yep, we know them well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least you do. Not quite a Gears caster yet. And then we've got New Stars, who is Fluent, Blade, Snipes, Promi, and I mean, for me, you have to look at 3 times Rowdy there, don't you? Like, after the performance, obviously they lose somebody in there, and there has been a slight change around, but their performance in the online major was very, very strong. I think it would be very easy for me to predict them as the team that will qualify, so that's who I'm going to go with, personally. But I think, obviously, you guys would know more than me about some of the lower-sided players that could potentially make it through.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the rosters, I've just had a look myself, and I know which ones I don't think will go through. That being, I don't think Leper Pete's will go through. Because I mean, Toby and I do a Tuesday cast as well, and we see them often on that, and they've never looked amazing on that. They've always looked good, right, Toby? I mean, you probably
I agree.
on this one as well. They've always looked like a good team, but they've never looked like an amazing team, right? Like a pro league team. So I don't think we'll see them. I don't think we'll see New Stars, personally. I like the roster, but I don't think we'll see it. Hype Family. I think that X Doors is the guy who won the 2v2 last night. And is a very young good player.
Pains, was it?
Yeah. And along with B Movements, who's also won a 2v2. That's a good, well skilled roster there. Don't think they're gonna win though. That leaves 3 teams, right? That leaves Academy, Rowdy, and Gridiron. Out of those 3, Academy has 3 people in it that have already qualified for the Pro League before, in Saki, Breaker, and Bruisem. And that, for me, is a roster that I think has a very, very good chance of winning it. I think the other team would be 3 times Rowdy. With TJ coming in, he's a great player. If he's on form, if they choose Icebound, they might win. I think it's between 3 times Rowdy and Academy reunited at this point, and I think a 3rd place over to Gridiron.
Yep, 100% agreed. I believe anyway that Rowdy 3 times has the edge here. I just think their roster is so stacked now that it's looking even stronger than it did for the major, that you really just have to tip your hat and give it to them. Like, it's just the slaying power. I feel like they're just going to come out, perform really, really well. They'll be as hungry as anyone to get a spot, and I think that's just going to drive them home to victory. To be honest, I really do fancy them going into this, being the champions there.
Cool. Well, okay, I'll go 3 times Rowdy. I think, as said, it's just the easiest one for me to go through. It's just the simple ones from me, as per usual. We're excited for them. Obviously, Sunday is when it's going to be happening, but then obviously the final 2 matches will be live at EJL.tv/live at 6 p.m. But I'm going to let you guys get on with the rest of your Friday night. I know we've got, Fru's on the stream schedule as well, mate. If you were streaming instantly, I drop you the host, mate. I'm that kind of fella.
They know where to find me, I'm sure.
Where's that?
It's twitch.tv/FruTube.
See how I set you up for that? Oh, my word.
Beautiful.
Oh,
but
it's
really,
crazy.
I'll be streaming Apex, so, I mean, a Gears hosting.
Oh. Don't watch them. You only watch Gears of War.
Now I'm trying out Loba, so, I got to get my round.
I haven't tried it yet. Honestly, FIFA has consumed me as of recent, as it so often does on a weekend. I want to hate myself more than I already do, so, just continue. Oh, mate, don't. Oh, yeah, so, I mean, it's just, been a horrible day. I've been at Ultimate Team. I'm supposed to be going on my honeymoon tomorrow. I shaved my hair. Honestly, shit day.
You gotta show people.
Mate, I don't. If they want to see it, they can go to my Twitter, which is below here.
Okay. I was going to say, what's your Twitter, Chris?
I've already covered it. I was 3 steps ahead. Oh, right. Any closing statements from the Mr. Blue himself, Toby? Come on, mate. I feel like I want to play that song. What was it? Blue I can't
remember. Theme tune involved, mate.
It'll just absolutely. It'll copyright the YouTube, so I won't do it. But I would.
Closing thoughts. I'm looking forward to this qualifier. I really am. The team shakeup is really exciting, as I said. North America as well. Roster Mania. Keep your eyes peeled on Twitter, folks, because it's just really kicking off, and it's nowhere near finishing just yet. And also the Gridiron point, right? I would have really liked to see it added, to be honest. I think it would have been quite interesting to see. But again, if it's not ready, it's not ready. And I think the biggest showing of that is that a lot of players were not just saying, hey, Gridiron's amazing, get it in. They were more like, yeah, Gridiron's all right, but I like Escalation. I definitely... Like, no one said Escalation should be replaced with Gridiron, right? No one did. So I think that goes to show, right, that perhaps Gridiron could be improved quite a bit to at least get it to the point where Gridiron and Esca are they definitely rather need to be together, So for no one to say really they really preferred Gridiron, I think that says a lot. Other than that, though, what else is there to say? We're in the thick of roster mania, and Gears Esports is as good as ever.
Well, absolutely swimming in it through. You were making faces during Toby's closing statement there.
He's laughing at me.
I mean, I'm laughing at his blueness to start with.
The blueness, mate. Mate, I can change my webcam colors if we really want to push this far.
No. I love it, Toby. I love it. I don't even know what I was going to say. Closing statements. Well, I mean, first up, I'd like to add that I've just seen in the chat, there's a team of notorious Red9, Reader, Physics, and J-Rage supposedly entering the qualifier tournament. I'd like to amend my statement. I think they'll be top 2 if they do play.
Top 2. Didn't say they'd win it, though.
No. And I don't know who against either. I'd have to see the bracket, but I think they're a very strong team. Pending just one thing, I think that might be eligibility, if that's how you say it. And whether or not they are actually allowed to play. So that'll be interesting to see if they get in. But that's a story for another time. And then closing thoughts. Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to it. I kind of hope that it's a different team in the Pro League. Nothing against the Obey guys, but I just want to see, a different bunch of players have a shot. And kind of reap the rewards that comes with getting into the Pro League. And it'd be great to see a team that hasn't yet had any members of their team qualify get in there. It's really cool, and hopefully as well, like by the time the next major rolls around, we'll be out of lockdown and we'll be able to actually go to a LAN as well.
Please let us be out of lockdown, because I mean, like being in the Pro League, that one of the main things you are happy to be in there for is not just the coverage, not just each week you get to play. It's the fact that you get sent to these majors as well, isn't it? And it's a big factor. Obviously, that can't happen right now. It can't happen for anybody. But we're really looking forward to seeing if there is going to be a new team joining our 3, albeit one of them is completely changed around, but we're excited for it. Obviously, as said, that will be on Sunday for the most part. I'm sure a few of the players will be streaming it, but on Monday we will be broadcasting the final 2 matches, which will be the loser bracket final. Then we'll move straight into the grand final. Guys, thank you very much for joining me once again. We need to do them often. I say this all the time. We're busy. We're busy, aren't we? We're busy boys. But it was a good time to come and discuss some gears. But that's going to end it right there, guys. Make sure you stay safe, please, at this moment in time. Obviously, we haven't had the opportunity to pass that message along, but hopefully everybody is keeping themselves safe, and hopefully the gears community are going to continue to enjoy the competitiveness that we had. There's been some great games so far, some really good broadcasts going on as well, and we've got plenty more to come. The summer quarter is starting very shortly, and we will be here on Monday with the qualifying games. If you do want to check out any of this episode that you did miss, it will be on our YouTube. That will be that, and we will see you for the next episode of Changing Gears.